if you want to put a marriage to the test, start a business together.
And then have that business fail badly.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
Hey everyone, welcome to Lunch Break. So glad to have you guys here. And we're gonna have a conversation today with some friends of mine that I've known for a few years through some groups that I've been involved in. And we asked them to come on because we're very aligned in a lot of our values and a lot of the things that we think and believe, including our faith and so many other things. So guys, please welcome Ryan and Tiffany Thomas. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us, Mike.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Awesome. So, and Abby, of course, is back for your sophomore interview, right?
Yep.
Glad to have Abby. Yeah, glad to have Abby here, rolling her into the mix, into the group. So, guys, I want to kind of give a little bit of introduction, but I'm gonna not get it perfect, but you guys are welcome to correct me in whatever I miss. But you guys have Tampa Carry, which is a Second Amendment firearms training for concealed carry, as well as tactical and some other things. And you guys have been doing that for about 17 years, right? Or in business in general for a little over a decade, near 2 decades here. And because of your success, now you're taking that and showing other people how to do the same in their businesses through Warrior Cloud and the software as a service you guys have there, as well as some other training and marketing programs and things like that.
So that's exactly it.
You guys want to fill in the gaps on what I missed of that?
Yeah, so Tampa Carry has been in business for about 7 years, right?
Yeah, it morphed from a gun store, actually.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Which we discovered very quickly, Mike, that I am not suited for the retail environment.
Why is that, Ryan?
I really hated being trapped in the gun store for 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. It really bothered me how people would come in and they would be looking at a product on the shelf. Here's my little bag of nuts. And then they would pull out their phone and scan it on Amazon. And they're like, oh, it's 50 cents cheaper on Amazon. I'm going to go buy it from them. And I was like, wow, thanks for wasting 45 minutes of my time explaining how that product works and convincing you to buy it. So little things like that, it was just very frustrating. We were in the commodity business and we were trapped being slaves to our business instead of having the business work for us.
Yeah, I can feel that. I've had that experience myself at times over the last couple of decades of being in business, and it's not fun. But I would love to hear your guys' spin on this as we kind of go through this. But one of my core messaging to other entrepreneurs, because we're in Russell Brunson's world and ClickFunnels and all that stuff. So we have access to some really great leaders and mentors and knowledge and information. But a lot of business owners have never even heard of some of that stuff, right? So one of my big messages is there is more to life than just living the grind, right? And dealing with the burnout. In the old industry I was in, and we're still in the business, but not as focused on that anymore. The IT company and MSP services, managed service provider, for those who don't know. I can't go to one of those conferences and talk to one of those business owners without them either telling me I want to get out of this business, or I'm burnout, or we just sold, or I want to sell, or whatever. But that's not just that industry. That's every business, right? Because how many people in that industry do you talk to, Ryan and Tiffany, that probably feel the same way?
Yeah, I'd say it's a lot. What are you?
Yeah, and what I was going to say too is a massive issue that we had when we had the gun store. We had 3 little kids, so the burnout. I mean, that was terrible. But then trying to raise, 3 little kids, and then it was we were too tired to even go to church on Sundays because it was just so much, right? And we were the gun store was an hour away from the house. So by the time you added, travel time and traffic and stuff like that, it was pretty crazy. And we both knew that something had to change or we were going to end up divorced. Like there was no question about it because it was just too much. Like you just can't function like that for, years on end.
Okay, so can we share the story of the gun store?
Please.
You want to hear some trials and tribulations, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I always wanted to own a gun, but I was afraid to own a gun because when I was in the military, I had a lot of anger. My dad was beaten and shot when I was 15 years old, and I had a lot of anger and resentment from that situation. And Tiff refused to let me have a gun because she was afraid I was going to get into a massive road rage incident, because I was very good at that back in the day, and end up going to prison for the rest of my life. One day we're sitting in church, and this guy walked in wearing a black leather trench coat, middle of July in hot Florida. So I'm watching this guy. That's strange, right?
Yeah, incredibly.
So the pastor is preaching. There's like 1,000 people, right, in that church?
Big, yeah.
So the guy is walking down the side of the building, and he's like jiggling doorknobs. He's peeking inside of offices to like see what was there. And he walked up to this big emergency exit that was clearly labeled "Alarms Will Sound."
Yeah.
And this guy opened the door.
Okay.
So now a bunch of people in the church are kind of freaking out. And let me back up. A week prior to this, a guy walked into a church service in Georgia while the pastor was preaching, walked right up to him, pulled out a gun, shot this guy in the chest, and killed the pastor.
I remember when that happened.
Yeah. Super crazy.
Yeah,
So
our security was all heightened and everything, and I get. Go ahead.
We're
Sorry
thinking like, something crazy is going to happen.
Sure.
So somebody
Naturally
tells Ryan, we need you to get over to the children's building, which is in a different building right next door, and secure the building. And me and my daughter Paisley, who was 8 months old at the time, were in that building. I was teaching and she was in the nursery. So I'll let you pick up.
So I ran over there. I started locking all the doors, putting guards on the doors. And I decided to guard the main entrance of this children's area, which is an entire wall made of glass.
Oh, wow.
And I remember standing there thinking to myself, what exactly am I going to do if this guy shoots through the glass? So I started digging through some boxes looking for a weapon. Now, Mike, Abby, I don't know if you guys have ever looked for weapons at a church before.
Well, yeah, you're probably not going to find them at most churches. Some of them you might, but...
Yeah.
So the only weapon that I could find was a pen.
Okay.
So after the incident was over, they ended up arresting the guy. He had a gun, and he admitted that he was there to rob the church and steal the offering.
Okay.
So that was the moment when I told Tiffany, I said, I don't really care what you think anymore. I am buying a gun today, and you can divorce me or you can get over it.
That was...
Now, obviously, with a body like this, she's not going anywhere.
That's awesome.
Ryan has changed quite a bit over the years.
Okay.
So we went and bought our first gun, and it was a really bad experience. They were very rude. The gun store was very dirty. And that's when we decided right then, we said, let's open a gun store.
Yeah, we saw an opportunity, right, to maybe have something that was friendlier to beginners, something that was cleaner, that was,
I've had the same experience going into gun stores where you feel you walk in and I own several, but they make you feel like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you just don't maybe feel as welcome and stuff
like
that. Now it has changed over the years, but
some of them
ago, it was definitely like, people didn't even really have a website.
Yeah, you're not part of the club. Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even
that was
own
how
a
it all
firearm.
began.
That sounds intimidating to go into a gun store and buying a gun.
It was intimidating for me, and I'm a type A, very dominant personality. It is intimidating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's really cool to see that you guys. I mean, I'm sorry you guys had such a bad experience initially, but it's cool to see that you guys turned that and you were like, hey, let's do something about this and let's make a change, and that's what started your whole business, and that's really beautiful. I love to see when people take a really bad thing and turn it into something good. And I think, just over the years of growth, seeing how God will turn a bad experience and make it something beautiful, and that's like the purpose behind when stuff like that happens. So it's really cool to see that. But I'm really curious to know where the name Warrior Cloud came from. How did that come about?
You know, when you're starting a new business and you have like 1,000 different names that are amazing, but the URLs are already all taken.
I know all about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you basically go through this like 2-week long process of just trying to figure stuff out and praying to Jesus that the URL is available. That's pretty much. It's a process of elimination.
Yeah.
I see.
So you had the bad experience. You opened the store. Then what?
Okay, so we opened the gun store, and initially we started by just selling products on eBay and on Amazon. It grew really quickly, and eventually we had like 6 or 7 employees in my house every day. My house had boxes and just shelves everywhere, and we were shipping hundreds of packages every day.
Unfortunately, you're in Florida, because in California, people get raided like every day for that stuff. And it's perfectly legal, but they're just, it's California, right? So
for having a business out of their house to get raided?
Firearms business specifically.
Oh really?
Yes,
ATF, yeah, California's ridiculous anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we like turned our garage into a warehouse. We had the like rows and everything with all the shelving, and we did that for quite a while. And then I said to Ryan, like, we might as well just do this out of a like storefront, the same thing we're doing, but have the opportunity to have people come in. So I guess opening the gun store was my fault because that was my idea. And it worked good for a while. The gun store was very busy. We did really well. Our first year, we did over $1 million on Amazon. So we were like, all right, we're crushing it. We're killing it. And because we had so much online, the gun store traffic didn't matter as much because that was just a bonus. That was just an extra.
Yeah.
Because we were selling.
That was just you getting it out of your house.
Yeah, exactly. Basically. Yeah. But what I didn't realize is having it in the house gave us the opportunity to at least be home and not have to deal with, I don't want to say like deal with customers, because it's not like we don't like to deal with customers. We love people. The problem is, and I don't know if this
people don't have boundaries.
I don't know if this is the gun store, or if this is in general, but people would come in and talk literally for 2 to 3 hours. So, I mean, you're standing there and you're like, I got lots of work to do. I got emails to do. I got shipping to do, but I can't just tell you like leave.
Well, I imagine you probably have a lot of retired people come into those kind of places. So
coming to hang out, right? And they're nice, but I've got work to do.
Right.
So you're kind of stuck.
Well, I don't really have that problem because most of our customers and clients are business owners, and they're like, we got stuff to do too. Are you done? Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the gun store was booming. I decided, because I'm usually the one that makes most of the bad decisions.
This is true.
That's just guys.
I decided to purchase a software program that would manage all of our inventory on Amazon, manage the inventory in the store, and just kind of keep track of everything.
Okay.
Paid $50,000 for this software, and this is money that we barely had.
Okay.
Then a month later, the Sandy Hook shooting happened.
Oh, gosh.
And the Sandy Hook shooting caused a surge in the firearms industry that nobody had ever seen before. And we literally had a line of people out of our door and around the building trying to buy guns.
Mm-hmm.
In about a 2-week period, we did close to $400,000 in revenue just in gun sales. And we sold every single gun, every piece of ammunition that we had. So then the story goes from bad to worse. We sold thousands of items on Amazon, and we were kind of leveraging the delivery. So we were selling products that we didn't actually have in stock yet.
It took a day to get to us. So every day I would just place an order with our distributor, and they would ship the box out the next day. We'd unpack it, we'd pack it, we'd send it out. So everything gets shipped within 24 hours, but I don't have to actually order it until the next day.
So that works until it doesn't.
It was working until everything went crazy for sale over like 300,000 on Amazon. And then I go to the distributor and everything is sold out. Everything. And there was no end in sight to when these items were going to come back in stock because people were just so scared of what laws were going to change. They were buying up everything.
There's an industry-wide shortage.
Yes, a massive one. And then basically, so between that to now we go to buy new guns to fill up our gun store, and we can't get a gun. We can't get a gun from anybody. And if we can get a gun, the sales rep says, I'll give you this gun if you buy these 50 holsters. And I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody buys those holsters. Those are terrible holsters. And they're like, we know.
Yeah, we're trying to move them.
Right, exactly. So then for months, we literally couldn't get any inventory. So we had no cash flow coming in. And then the nail on the head was Amazon went, oh, look at all these products are selling really, really good. Okay, we're going to start carrying these products now. And we never got the buy box again. So it was like every single thing in our business just went away.
Stopped like overnight.
Almost overnight.
But I think that's what's so cool about entrepreneurs, because I've been through it. Y'all have been through it, obviously. And so many people that we both know have been through it as well. Like, you have those moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be bankrupt. I'm going to go get a job. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've faced that myself many times. But the true test of an entrepreneurship, that's when that happens. Not when everything's going good. It's when things get rough and you're like, I got to make payroll next week. I got to figure this out now.
Yeah. So we found ourselves, what we did was we overbought because nothing was coming in. So we overbought, and we had, all this stuff that was basically coming in sporadically. Long story short, we ended up with over $100,000 in credit card debt at like 29.9%. We had no cash flow coming in, and it was a terrible nightmare. And our marriage was horrible. We can say 100% we hated each other. But because we had zero money, there was nothing that we could do, because there was no way for him to move out. There was no way and it was the toughest time in our life, in both of ours. And I never thought that we both didn't think that we would ever make it. It was just super bleak. And then we were like, I don't know, what do we do? Do we close the gun store? What do we do? And then one of our customers accidentally shot one of our other customers.
Okay.
In the chest. Right.
Shot him in the nipple, which makes the story even better.
At the time, we thought it was the chest, because he just went down holding his chest.
Oh, this happened at your store?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I thought it just happened like wow.
No, a customer was in the gun store.
Yeah.
Did something very dumb with the gun.
Stupid.
And shot another customer. And the bullet basically passed by this guy's chest like this, and it just barely grazed the tip of his nipple.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious to me. I just find it very funny.
But I also think that was 100% God. That was our deciding factor. That was so terribly stressful. That was, everything to us. And we're like, it's not even our fault. There's nothing we can do. It says the sign on the door, you're not supposed to be doing that. But, so that was our clue. It was like, you ever feel that you're wondering about something, and then God not only like closes the door, but he puts like 15 deadbolts and the chain, there was no way we were going to open that door again. So we closed the gun store.
Wow. And
here we are, tons of, money in debt. We have no idea what we're going to do. We can't stand each other. We both want out of everything. And it was so terrible. And then we kind of just said, what if we take the one thing that we were doing at the gun store that we liked, and concealed carry classes, and what if we just start doing that to make money and try to focus on beginners and just start doing that? And that's how Tampa Carry came out of it. And we very quickly started to really crush it with Tampa Carry, and we paid off all the debt, and we slowly just started to get out of that kind of hole. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I want to hear more about how God like restored everything, because this wasn't just the finances, because that's easy, right? God has the finances, but he restored your marriage, he restored your family, like all of that.
Yeah. So I will say this. I mean, it's a little bit rough, but this day, I still remember it so clearly. I laid in my bed. My 3 kids were out in the living room, and I was laying in my bed with the door closed, and they're all like toddlers. And I never got out of bed for 9 hours. And the whole 9 hours, all I thought was, there's no way we're going to get out of debt. There's absolutely no way, with $100,000 on credit card debt, barely any money coming in. I thought there was no chance for our marriage. And that was it. I was ready to just end everything. And it was really scary. And with Ryan, I just got on my knee or on my face, and I said to God, like, you just need to make him leave, because I'm too weak to leave him, and I need you to just make him leave. And God clearly said to me, I will give you the man your heart desires.
She thought it was somebody else.
And I thought, wow, great. Ryan's going to leave, and God's going to bring in someone good to me. Because at this time, even though Ryan and I met doing inner city ministry, and Ryan and I, had a very, very firm foundation in the beginning, we had both strayed away from God. We had both, we stopped going to church when the gun store opened. We stopped doing all of our volunteering, and we had both, backslidden. And I don't know if anybody knows what it feels like to backslide. Even though God is only one step away and he's always right there, we still want to cower down, and we're still scared to come back to him. Right.
Yeah.
And it's weird how that works, because that's not how God is at all. He's always right there, and he's always got his hand out. Right. And he's always and he's excited when we come back, and, but we don't see it that way. So, I forgot where I was going with the story there.
So you're talking about God will give you the man of your heart.
Yeah, right. So it's so funny, because now, 10 years later, I just said to Ryan, was it this morning or last night?
I try to tune you out as much as possible.
I said, isn't it incredible, the man you've become? I can't believe that you are the man my heart desires. And it took a lot of years, right?
Yeah.
But he totally restored our marriage. He made us best friends again. We both thought that we could never, let alone love each other, we thought we could never even like each other again. So it's really cool to see what God can do. I never thought we could get out of debt. We were out of debt within, I think, a year and a half. We were completely out of debt. And then we bought a vehicle and paid that off and had money in the bank. So, when that's when God operates the best, I think, is in those impossible situations, right? Yeah. God just comes in and just shows you who he is. But there's so many times in our lives where we think it is impossible. There is no way. And there's always a way with God. There is always a way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Ryan, can I ask you about your side of that story? Because God, I had this, we were just at I was at a men's conference with some other guys, 3,000 men in San Diego, California. And one of the big messages was, God, if you surrender, I'm kind of paraphrasing and use my own words to tell the story, but God will make you into the man that you're supposed to become. So can you tell me your side of the story of that and how God made you into that man?
I would say that really what I had to realize throughout this process is that it's 100% my fault. Right. So everything, our financial situation, our marriage, our kids, everything is 100% my fault. So I think realizing that, but still I had that mindset for quite a few years, and that was okay. Really, honestly, the big shift happened when we kind of got into the Russell Brunson world, and he kept talking about personal development. And then I started diving really deep into Jim Rohn, Napoleon Hill, and Tony Robbins, people like that. And started to realize that this is even more my fault. That if I want these things that I say that I want in my life, then I have to change who I am so that I can have the things that I desire, right? So it goes back to this whole be, do, have. Yeah. First, I must become the person who can do the thing so that I can have the result that I actually desire. And then it's really just about figuring out the things in my life and my personality that are bad, and then shaving those things off, right? So that's kind of the process that I've been going through. And been interesting. It's been hard, but it's been pretty amazing too. I stopped drinking recently, which I think has been good. And so it's just kind of been that continuous process of figuring out what are the things that I'm doing wrong, and then how do I just get better?
Cool. So so you were doing Tampa Carry. We can go back to that story.
Okay.
And somewhere along the way, you got the idea to start Warrior Cloud. So let's fill in the blanks there.
Okay, so Tampa Carry was crushing it. We basically took the information that I learned from the .com Secrets book. We created our value ladder. We automated our entire business. So when all other gun instructors were teaching in-person, 3-hour-long courses, we developed this online hybrid kind of course where people can watch the lecture portion online, and then they simply come in to do the live fire portion, and then they're off to the races. So then COVID hit in March, and the government started saying, you're not allowed to have people in your class anymore. So, prior to that, we would have 30 to 50 people inside of one concealed carry class. And now I can only have 10. And we were like, what are we going to do? So we said, let's just switch over to 100% online. That's the only thing that we offer. People watch the lecture portion online. Then they come in for 30 minutes, do the shooting portion, and then they're out the door. So we launched that, and we absolutely crushed it. We started doing multiple 6 figures every single month. When all of my competitors had closed their doors because they didn't have a plan or a strategy, we just absolutely dominated. And this is the power of having systems, scalable systems. The average firearms instructor trains about 20 people a month. We were training, the most we trained in 1 month was 3,800 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was the height of the...
Most we trained in one day, it was a Thursday, was 400 people in one day.
Wow.
Is that insane?
That's insane. Yeah.
So, and because we had like the automated process, our OTOs and stuff like that, I remember we were selling this one course, which took 0 to fulfill. It was just 100% information product. We made $80,000 just from selling this one digital product that cost us nothing to fulfill. And that's when I really realized, like, okay, this Russell guy actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So then I was talking to some of my friends who owned a gun store, and they were like kind of telling me how they were struggling. And they said, we've got 30 people that have signed up for these classes, but we can't actually teach it because we can't have them in the building, and I don't want to do it for just 10. And I said, hey, I've got this thing that we're using. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but why don't you pay me a couple $100 a month, and let's see if it works for you. So we made like a very rudimentary version of it, gave it to them, and they started crushing it. So then we just kind of expanded that with some other instructors, and then several iterations of the software later, and here we are.
Yeah.
That's cool. I have, it's interesting to see that because I've seen in my own life trying to go this direction, trying to go that direction. The direction we're always supposed to go is the one that just like naturally happens, Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that we've thought for a long time. And we're still fighting because, this business is very volatile, right? There's a lot of different laws. There's a lot of, people push back. There's a lot of stuff happening. And then there's like, a lot of tension there too, right?
Sure.
So it can get a little tiresome almost.
It's also frustrating. I would say disgusting almost, that when there is a big mass shooting, that's when we're going to make the most money.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't really like the fact that our success is tied to something really bad happening.
Yeah. Fear, bad stuff. Yeah.
Well, and I've always heard that from talking to different shop owners and stuff is you would think that it'd be the opposite, but it makes sense like when they explain it, like gun sales and firearms and all of the stuff that goes with it like always does better when there's a Democrat in office, right?
Yes. Or election years and then tragedies. Yeah, those are the times when you do the best. So So yeah, that's something that we've struggled with, for a long time too, because and telling someone what you do when somebody asks like, what do you do? It can go either way, right? So we're always a little shy about saying, what we do, depending on the person's beliefs.
It can be polarizing, right? Because you got people that are probably more like me, that just like love it, or people there's not really a whole lot of fence sitters, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, man, that's cool. And I love your guys' story. I love everything. I'm like inspired, and simultaneously, like, I think this is one of the better episodes we've done of this show. And we're going in our 4th year of doing this now. Yeah. Man, Abby, do you want to ask them any questions?
I guess I would like to know if you guys have any advice for other couples who are running, maybe not the same exact business as you guys, but just for couples who are running businesses together. Do you guys have any advice for people like that?
Great question.
Yeah, I would say the advice is it's going to be extremely hard. Yeah. So it was if you want to put a marriage to the test, start a business together. Yeah.
And then have that business fail badly. And that now you are really, when stuff was good, we were fine, right? But it's when that pressure comes that there's just so much pressure. I don't know if you ever felt that, where you can almost just not breathe. You're fighting back the tears all day long. And there's just that overwhelming, it's like a foot on top of you all the time. And when that's happening, that's when it's very, very hard to have a loving marriage and to have, to support each other, and then to be great to your kids and be there for your kids, all of that stuff, because all you can think about is, how are we going to survive? How are we going to pay the bills? I'm a failure, and all this stuff that happens. And Ryan said something with our kids. We always say Joshua 1:9 every single morning. And Ryan said to me this morning, he's like, do you know what the most used, what was it?
Like the most used phrase in the Bible. I don't know if this is true or not. I saw it on the internet, so you can believe like 10% of what's on the internet. But what the guy said is the number one phrase used in the Bible, it's used over 365 times, is do not be afraid.
Yeah. So, and I think, when those things happen, it's fear, right? When I was so stressed about the money, it was fear. When I was so stressed about our marriage, it was fear about what we were going to do. It's always fear that creates that, all the, the things that are happening next. So I think if we can get rid of that fear by just really trusting in God and trusting that he is who he says he is, and he will do what he says he will do, which the best way to find that out is to look back in your life and think about all the times that you thought you were never going to make it, that things weren't going to change. Right. And you have a whole wealth of proof that God is who he says he is, just by looking back in your life. And a lot of times that's all we have to do is just look back at all the promises and all the things that God's done for us. And all those times when we thought that he didn't answer a prayer, that he in fact did answer that prayer. It wasn't the way that we thought it was going to be, but now looking back, you can see and go, that would have been really, really bad.
Yeah. The way that I'd like to answer your question, Abby, is we have friends from church who we cannot hang out with ever. And the reason is every time we're around them, they say, Ryan, she did this to me. And then she's like, yeah, but you did this.
Yeah.
And it's like just this constant back and forth.
Which one of us is right?
They're trying to get us to like arbitrate their marital problems, right? So what I said to him is I said, I'm not going to say his name, but I said, what did you do? Like, tell me what you did in this situation, okay? So what I would say to couples that want to start a business together, rethink it.
I know.
But if you're going to do it, it's your fault.
Yeah.
So I have to realize that everything that is happening is 100% my fault. But also, she has to think everything is her fault.
Yeah.
So then we have to come together and say, okay, I screwed up with this.
Yeah.
She knows she screwed up with this. What are we going to do to fix it now? Right? Because the blame game, fighting doesn't fix anything.
Yeah.
We just need to move forward.
Try to blame it on each other. Then that's where, and then just looking at intention too. Like a lot of times I tell Ryan, when we get into these things, I'm like, Ryan, we're fighting each other and we already got enough fighting to do in this world. We're on the same team. Let us work like a team. Let's, because this other stuff, we shouldn't be fighting against each other. It's just too hard, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then a big thing that I learned just in, marriage in general is instead of me going to complain to him or going to complain to my friends, the best thing for me to do is just to pray. So I would just go in my laundry room, fold some laundry, and say, God, fix him.
Yeah.
Give it to God. Yeah. Well, I just want to say I really admire seeing, Tiffany, the faith that you had and the trust that you had in God, and kind of telling God, like, hey, I can't do this. Can you handle it? And then also for you, Ryan, like just humbling yourself and taking ownership over the things that you had to change. So I really admire the both of you for your faith, and then for your self-awareness too, which actually taking extreme ownership is one of our business modules, and we really stand by that. So I really admire that. And I've also just learned that in anyone's personal growth, the only way that you can grow is by taking ownership, and that's the start. So yeah, thank you for that advice, and I hope that reaches someone or a couple, or I hope that God will speak to whoever he needs to speak to through you guys. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's a lot of gold there.
Yeah,
a lot of gold.
Awesome.
So is there anywhere you'd like people to go to learn more about you? I know Abby's got all of your social links and everything, so we'll make sure and post that out when we publish this episode. But is there anything you guys got going on you want to draw people's attention to?
Probably the best place to hear from me is the 2A Warrior podcast.
Okay.
So daily podcast, I got to tell you, it's pretty amazing.
Well,
That's awesome.
And even though it's kind of geared towards firearms instructors, but I mean, it's all personal development, self-development, and kind of all the stuff that we all need to hear anyway. So it definitely helps for anybody. So if you like a little bit of ruggedness in there, you've got Ryan.
Oh, I'm going to sign up to listen to that podcast myself. So
Yeah, awesome.
That's cool. Do you have the link for that podcast, Abby?
I'm not sure if I have. I'll get the
If we don't have it,
information.
can you send it over?
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll get it.
Cool.
We'll get
All
that
right, guys.
together.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I know you probably got a busy day ahead of you. So, this was awesome. Appreciate y'all.
Awesome. Thanks for
Thanks,
having
guys.
us,
We appreciate
guys.
it.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.